You see Alex Johnson back as well?
Yeah, it was great for Alex. I mean, there was obviously a lot of build-up leading into last week's game. He was able to contribute, get through the game, pull up quite well, so that's a good sign. And hopefully he's able to build on that performance.
This is the Swans Cast Extra, the #1 Sydney Swans fans weekend preview podcast. With me tonight is passionate Swans fan and the Swans Cast regular Joshua Marr. In this week's episode, we will preview the Swans round 21 match against Melbourne on Sunday afternoon at the MCG. We'll talk about the AFL stand on striking and send-off rules. We'll chat about Dan Hannebery and Gary Rohan headlining the changes for the side ahead, and we'll discuss the selections, what we're looking forward to, matchups, key points, and we'll give you the weekend forecast. Josh, Dan Hannebery and Gary Rohan, they've been named in the extended squad. Do you think they will actually make their return this weekend?
Will they make the return? I think Dan Hannebery is going to be a certainty. I think someone like Dan Robinson's probably going to come out for him. Gary Rohan, I hope not. I think he was struggling for form before. That was why he was in the reserves when he broke his hand. He's had several weeks now where he hasn't played at all. I would be disappointed if Gary Rohan came in, to be honest.
It would be an interesting selection given the fact that he did break his hand, and usually they take about between 4 to 8 weeks depending on how bad the break was and the previous history of injury and whatnot. So it would be kind of surprising that they bring Gary Rohan in, who you're right, who hasn't had great form anyway this season, straight in off injury.
Yeah. I guess the confounder there is going to be will be one of our young fellas who needs a rest. So Tommy McCartan and Will Hayward have looked pretty slow the last couple of weeks.
Agreed.
I imagine they need a rest. Johnny Longmire's pretty much said exactly the same thing about Tom McCartan in several of his press interviews now. So if there is a change, it'll be for one of those guys, I think. Whether it's Gary Rohan or someone like Dean Towers who comes in, we'll wait to be seen.
Well, the other changes, of course, tonight's named squad is only the extended squad. They're actually going to name the full squad tomorrow, so we'll have news tomorrow about that. But the extended squad for players in is Dan Hannebery, Gary Rohan, Darcy Cameron and Dean Towers. So there's every chance that a player like Darcy Cameron could come in, take over the ruck duties. They put Tom McCartan back, they give him a week off, and they could actually put Callum Sinclair in a forward line and swap them for ruck duties.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Darcy Cameron would get absolutely smashed by Max Gawn if you had to go up against him. But having another tall marking forward, especially against the D's defence, I don't think they're really... they're not... I'm going to use the wrong wording. They're not very good at the moment. They don't like repeat entries and when it comes in fast. I don't think they would handle a tall overhead marking target very well in their back line. But we'll wait and see what happens when they drop 4 out of that extended squad, I guess.
Well, Lance Franklin's always had a pretty good time against Melbourne. They don't really have a good matchup for him. I mean, Sam Frost, he's a tall, slower kind of guy. He's probably the type of player you might put on basically like a Jesse Hogan or maybe even a Paddy McCartan. Like, he can probably compete against him really well. But for the really fast, athletic forwards, I don't think he's a good matchup. So maybe Oscar McDonald. But Melbourne do have 5 ins and 1 out. So Dean Kent, Mitch Hannon, Cam Pedersen, Sam Wiedemann and Jaden Hunt. So they're in their extended squad and Joel Smith has come out. So they are bringing in some quality. So it's going to be an interesting match, I think, and interesting matchups in general.
Yeah, I think it will be. It's not going to be I think most people are predicting a massive blowout in favour of the D's, and I think it's going to be a heck of a lot closer than a lot of people are tipping it's going to be at the moment. Yeah,
it's hard to sort of see that is even going to be a blowout. Let's face it, we're going to dive into it a bit later, but the Swans have a very good record against the Demons. Even at the MCG, it is an impressive record. And last year, the Demons went in. They were heavily favoured. And if it wasn't for the Swans kicking 2 goals 14 in the first 40 minutes of the match, they would have lost by a lot more than 30-odd points. So I'd be wary of the Swans in this game. I'd say they're a pretty good chance there, Josh.
Yeah, I think we're a good chance. I think what I'm hoping is that the fact that we finally found some form again after a couple of horrific weeks.
Yep.
I'm hoping that's going to extend further into this week coming. The only caveat to that would be which version of Franklin's going to show up this week. Are we going to have
crippled,
crippled Franklin with the crook heel, or are we going to get last week's one for a second week in a row? I think that's going to be a big make or break moment for us.
Agreed. Yeah, he is a big big player, and he's going to have a massive say on the result of the match. But look, straight into the top of the agenda. This week, massive news obviously coming out of Perth. Everyone's known about it. Everyone's talked about it. Gaff, with his bit of a brain explosion, he kind of went the biff, and unfortunately he went the bash. So he has copped 8 weeks at the tribunal on Tuesday night. Now, there's been a raging discussion and a lot of debate about send-offs. Are they necessary? Should the AFL bring them in? Recently, Gillon McLachlan said they're not going to bring them in. But Josh, do you think a send-off rule is necessary?
I do. I like the fact, good old Gillon McLachlan, they talk about these mid-season rule changes and all this rubbish that nobody really wants.
Yeah.
Someone brings up something, it's actually quite a legitimate discussion. And the AFL and Gillon McLachlan just, handball at the second it comes up for discussion. I just sort of think, Gill,
He's a deal.
Why do we... Gill the deal. Why do we worry about this other stuff? And we just automatically axe any legitimate discussion. I think a send-off rule for incidents like this would be perfectly reasonable in the current climate, especially with all the talk about head injuries.
Yeah.
Public violence, the whole One Punch Kills campaign, which is going on out there, and the fact that a lot of the lower leagues already have these rules in place anyway for these exact reasons. It's one of those things they should just lead by example and just get it done.
Well, they're basically one of the only sports I can think of, professional, national level or continental level sports, that actually don't have a send-off rule. Rugby has it, rugby league has it, international football or soccer has it, even American sports have it. Actually, the majority of American sports have it. Netball has it. Basically just send-offs, sin bins, just temporary sort of off he goes. NBA has it. You can get ejected for violent behaviour. NHL, baseball, all the major sports. Basically, Australian Football League is AFL is basically the only major sport that doesn't have some form of a punishment rule, which is a send-off rule.
Yep. And I know we like to say that we're a unique sport, and this is one of those things I don't think we should be unique in.
Agreed. It's the wrong thing to be unique in. We're certainly not progressive in that regard, and maybe it's time for AFL headquarters to maybe move out of Melbourne. Maybe set up shop in, another state somewhere else. Prove that they are a national league rather than just a couple of old Victorians sitting around plotting. So... yeah, look, a lot of debate. Players are actually supportive of this. There is very few professional level players, certainly well-known players and characters and whatnot, that have actually come out in opposition of a send-off rule.
Yep.
Even if it's like a sin bin, yellow card type, off for 10, 15, 20 minutes, or a permanent red card send-off rule. So I think eventually the change is going to have to be made.
I think it will too. And one of the arguments that people continually throw up about a send-off rule is that, how it's that whole thing, the umpires can't umpire the game correctly as it is. How are they going to be able to administer this one? And to that, I would say that there's some things which are subtle and some things which can be missed. This isn't subtle. And with the amount of cameras we've got on the field, you can't miss this. I don't see any reason that this could not be done effectively.
Agreed. And for those who might follow other soccer leagues or football leagues overseas, for example, England, they don't have a on-field retrospective send-off rule. The referees, they must see it, but they do a retrospective after the match red card, which is essentially the same as a suspension. So it's not like there are leagues there that don't have it real time. They don't, but I think the AFL has to come to some sort of setup or some sort of ruling where they have to be able to basically say, you've done something real bad, off you go. Because players like Jeremy Cameron, who has twice flown into marking contests into unsuspecting defenders and just knocked them out with his hip. And you could certainly argue that both cases were very deliberate. Tom Jonas, ironically, who knocked out the person in question, who unfortunately, Andrew Gaff, was done for striking on the weekend. Obviously, then there's also Thomas Bugg last season. Every year there's a couple of incidents for players doing silly things. There was the Richmond player who elbowed, I can't remember who it was, in the back of the head.
Yep.
He would be instantly sent off in literally every other sport in the world. Every professional
Yep.
level sport, he would be off the ground, out of the game. He'd be ejected. So.
Yep. Yeah, I absolutely agree. For all the just on the gaff thing, for all the rulings that the match review officer and the tribunal have handed out this year that was suspect, I think they were probably on the money with this one.
Yeah.
And he got 8 weeks, and I think that's 4 for the jaw and another 4 for each tooth.
Yeah.
I honestly think they probably could have got another 2 weeks on it. People say that 8 was too much, and I've got a bit of professional bias against people getting their heads punched in. But I would have thought 8 to 10 would have been good.
Yeah, look, 8 was probably on the shallow end, but I would agree. I think they got it right. So, yeah, 10 could have been there. 10 probably was a risk, and there was even an article that came out. I'm not quite sure who wrote it. I think it was in on Fox Sports or one of those other online publications where the writer suggested that the Eagles played a bit of a dangerous game with his defence. But look, it's been done to the nth degree. I don't think we really need to discuss it much anymore. I think it's time to focus on the Swans, Josh. Agreed?
Yes. Let's get it done.
So, as we touched on before, the extended squad, Dan Hannebery, Gary Rowan, Darcy Cameron, Dean Towers. Now, obviously, we're talking about Dan Hannebery coming in. The club hasn't discussed a percentage, but unless he's still carrying an injury, I'd say he's basically in. He's going to get selected. What do you think about the other 3, and who do you think will actually come out for those players?
Well, I think Gary Rowan and probably Dean Towers I'd consider them to be the same person at the moment. I don't think they'll make too many drastic changes based on how they went last week. So what I'm saying is that if they're going to take someone like Will Hayward out, they're not going to take Will Hayward and Tom McCartney.
Yeah.
They'll only take one or the other. And then it will just be about who's the fittest, I guess, or which one gives them a better matchup. So I'm gonna say that if they make another change, it'll be Tom McCartney or Will Hayward out for Gary Rowan. And I'm not really sure how I feel about the idea of Gary Rowan. I don't understand what the move with Darcy Cameron is with this. Max Gawn's going to play pretty much 100% game time, and I don't understand where they're going to go with Darcy Cameron, unless it's purely to put sinkers down in the forward line at some stage during the game.
I agree. That's pretty much my line of thinking as well, in that they all 3, other than Hannebery, the other 3 could basically play as forwards, rather. And you could put Sinclair down in the forward line, so that is an option for them to stretch that defence. Yep.
So that at face value, that's what I think would happen. But certainly, I think Dan Hannebery for Dan Robinson's probably the only guarantee out of that.
Well, also Robbie Fox, he's a possible out. He hasn't really had much of an impact on matches lately, defensively or in the forward line either. So that could be a straight swap, Towers for Fox, like for like.
Yep. Yeah, I think Fox looks fit though. He's not getting the ball, but he looks fit. A couple of the young guys don't really look that fit at the moment. And John Longmire's pretty much come out and stated that publicly, especially in regards to Tom McCartney, that he needs a rest. But they had no one to put in there in his place.
Yeah, so I would think Hannebery and Cameron. I would say that Hannebery's probably about 90% and Cameron's roughly about 75-80%. Those are my 2 ins. I would say Robinson and McCartan come out, and Sinclair plays probably 50% forward.
Yep.
That's what I think the changes will end up being, unless, of course, another player comes out injured or there's some injury in training tomorrow. But, let's talk about the match itself. Let's have a bit of a look at the preview. There's some interesting sort of tidbits from the last time they played. So, obviously, the Swans, they won by 5.5 goals. But the big point of that match was when Thomas Bugg whacked Callum Mills. And that was actually the week after his mural was painted on Hubway Lane in Melbourne, which was quite ironic. He was very celebrated in the newspaper, then literally the next week he was not celebrated in the newspaper at all. That mural didn't stay up for very long, I'm afraid.
No, and his career went very quiet after that too, didn't it?
It did, yeah, it did.
He wouldn't have played more than a handful of senior games after that.
I think
you don't hear too much about him.
No, I think he played like one more senior game for the season, and he hasn't. I don't think he's actually played more than 1 or 2 games this season. I think his career's pretty much derailed after that. That's a pretty big thing to come back from, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a bit strange. Despite the fact he turned around and clocked someone, he's actually not a bad player. And for him to not be able to get back into a side is interesting. I just wonder whether part of that is not just form, but he doesn't sort of conform to what the ideals or the ethics of the team is as well. So,
yeah, and look, I think that was some of the feedback that came out last year, was that he was still adjusting to the Melbourne Football Club, the way that they go about things. And, Goodwin's in there. He's doing a good job, obviously. So if he's not getting the game, he's not getting the game. It's got to be on merits. And some of those players that are coming through, they are good quality players, and would certainly have a few of them in the Swans. I mean, come on. I would take Petrarca. Definitely take Petrarca.
Everyone would take Petrarca.
Oh, yeah. I mean, go on. Yeah, obviously. But, I mean, you're going to be paying an arm and a leg. Nathan Jones every day of the week. Yes, please. Clayton Oliver, Dom Tyson, Christian Salem. Yep, take them all.
Short.
Yeah, even Jeffy Garlett, if you got desperate, that sort of thing, because he's still a pretty good player. And probably Tom McDonald as well. He's a good backup forward and back. So look,
he's the very definition of a swingman, Tommy McDonald, these days.
The old Adam Hunter. Adam Hunter was one of the very good players of about 10, 15 years ago, for those who don't remember, and he was an absolute prick too. So, but yeah, they've got a good team. It's going to be a good match, is pretty much what we're trying to say. We are Swan supporters, not Demon supporters, but it's just an interesting sort of segue discussion. Now, the first quarter was... it was a freezing cold night. I was there on the boundary. It was freezing cold. We were rocked up big time. And the way the Swans played in that first quarter was, it was like pulling your fingernails out. They kicked 8 straight points before Parker dobbed one on the siren or after the siren. And Gary Rowan took, I think, 5 marks. He was absolutely dominant in that first quarter. He kicked 3 straight behinds. After his third point, he actually gave the ball up when he was about 40 metres out, nearly directly in front. He gave the ball up and coughed it up for a turnover. And they actually went down the other end and scored a goal.
I remember that. We had a few moments like that last year, though, didn't we? I think we did it against the Bombers as well? We were... Yeah. 1 goal 9 or 1 goal 11 or something at some stage, and then we had to pull out, got in front, and then had to do the great comeback.
Yeah, it was at that time when we scored 11-20 one week, and then we backed it up with the Demons scoring 11-19, which was quite frankly insane. I don't think I've ever seen a season like that where we've just been so poor in front of goal. And now that game was against Essendon, where we did the 20-point turnaround with 5 minutes left.
Yep.
So
yeah, 11-20 for the match, and then won by a point after the siren. That's just ridiculous.
Yep. All those points came in handy in the end, which is funny because we're all ruining it at the time.
Yeah, if anyone goes back and watch the last few minutes of that game, that point from Franklin from outside 50, that he meant to do that.
Yeah.
Meant to do that.
To set Papley up for the smother. He definitely meant to do that.
Meant to do that. It was planned. It was a set play.
Yeah. If I don't know if you remember much of the match, but the Demons were pretty much not even at the races that game, but they managed to kick 4 straight in the first quarter, and then they kicked 1 point for almost 2 quarters afterwards.
Yep.
And the Swans, you'd think at 1-8, it could get better. Nah, it kept getting worse. They kicked 2-14.
Yep.
They
did.
It was like everyone was laughing on the sidelines. It was just that bad. We were in front at 2-14. That's how bad we were kicking. But a little bit of history between the two sides. The Swans hold a really good record, as I touched on previously. They have won the last 6 matches between the sides, and they've actually won 11 of the last 13, including a draw. The last loss was more than 8 years ago. Round 17, 2010 by 73 points.
It's a shellacking.
Yeah, and then after that, the next match, we had that draw. I don't think I was at that one. And then obviously we built up our pretty good record against them. We've averaged wins of about 35, 36 points. But look, the last four between
Wins.
they've been very comfortable wins, and the last four between the sides at the MCG, the Swans have averaged 34-point winning margin. And of course, we said Franklin's going to have a big say on the match. He is second in the Coleman medal race with 50. Probably should be in front, and this is given his up and down season with his foot ranging anywhere from completely immobile to no problem at all. So it's a bit of a weird season for him.
Gee, I'll tell you what, if he manages to overtake Brent Brown in the next 3 rounds and pluck it, it's going to be one for the ages, isn't it?
It's going to be his second Bradbury Coleman in a row.
In a row, that's right. Only we don't have Carlton at round 23, so you can pop on a lazy 10 this year.
I know. Or you never know. He might put on a lazy 10 against Hawthorn.
No, ain't going to happen.
Oh, it'd be great if he did it against that bloody, what's his name?
The blonde-headed guy.
Yes, you know who I'm talking about.
He's still out with a broken hand, isn't he?
Oh, let him come back for this one with a broken hand so Buddy can kick 10 on him.
Gee, I'd love to see Franklin kick 10 on Hawthorn.
It would be great.
I think every Swans fan in history would love to see Franklin kick 10 on Hawthorn and just blow him out of the water.
Well, 10 would be better than his game-winning 2-7.
Yeah, it's true.
Yep.
It's very true.
Now, Josh, could you please give us your first matchup?
First matchup, seeing we're talking about Franklin, I'm going to say they're going to put Frost on Franklin. Depending on which version of Franklin shows up, if he's got his the same mobility that he had last week, Frost is probably about the only defender that could go with him. And it's something we should be able to exploit as well, quite frankly. Their defence is a little bit shaky. They don't like it when the ball comes in quick. And they certainly don't like it when their opposing team has repeat inside 50s. I would like to see Frost on Franklin, and I'd like to see a healthy Franklin, because a healthy Franklin will still destroy him.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I reckon even half-fit Franklin would still beat him.
Yep.
Maybe 3 or 4 goals, but he'd still beat him.
Provided we deliver a decent ball to him.
Yeah, that is the big if, isn't it?
Him.
Big if there. So my first matchup, I've actually gone the ruck battle. So Sinclair and Gawn. Now, obviously, Sinclair hasn't got a good record against Gawn. I had to dig this up. I had to go back to 2015, I believe it was. Yeah, 2000, or maybe 2016, sorry. That was when Tippett was out injured and Naismith was out injured. So they had Sinclair and Nankervis in the ruck. Now Gawn got 58 hitouts that day. So it's incumbent on Sinclair to not be that bad again.
No, well, yes.
He got 16 hitouts.
He won't ever be that bad again, though, because it was just a different time. I think
I don't
that
know.
was after he got him from West Coast, wasn't it?
Grundy got on top comfortably last week, and that's the worry, because Grundy and Gawn are quite similar. They are very good athletes in the air and on the ground, but where Sinclair can beat them is in the scramble on the ground and also going forward. He's a very good forward.
He's a solid forward. I wished I had have watched more of the Melbourne game last week. Probably not last week. Probably wouldn't have been a good example. But from what I saw, well, actually, Queen's birthday weekend where Grundy and Gawn went up against each other, I went to that game. Proudly sat in the D section with all my red and white on. Got some strange looks. It was great. And I still would have said that even though I think Brodie Grundy's probably better, I think Gawn got the chocolates on that day.
Yeah.
But Sinkers is definitely going to have trouble trying to quell his influence.
Yeah, agreed. Now, Josh, who was your second matchup?
They've got this little guy in their midfield. He likes to take a dive every now and then, and that's a little bloke called Clayton.
Yeah, know him well.
He's an absolute extractor of the ball. He's a fantastic inside mid. He's a contested possession beast, and we can't let him get off the chains, and we've got a bloke who can fix that. So Georgie Hewitt is going to go on to Clayton Oliver.
Yeah, it's a good matchup. I like it. The last 2 times I've played Melbourne, Oliver's actually been pretty quiet. So if we can shut down Oliver, we shut down their midfield ball-winning capacity, and we really slow their spread. Because once they get the ball, and if they can get into space, they are quick. They are very, very quick on the attack.
Extremely quick on the attack.
And they go forward in a wave. It's just like, it's frightening to watch them.
what I really like about Georgie Hewitt is that when he's on, he not only sort of soft tags his opposing player out of it, but he also wins his own balls.
Yeah,
So this weekend just gone, he had stints on Pennells and Sidebottom, who I think halfway through the third quarter they had one clearance between the two of them, and George still finished with 10 for the match.
Yeah,
so
Hewitt was massive. He was definitely one of the best players. And Penelopri couldn't even get into the game until towards the end of the third quarter, and he had Hewitt mining him. So it really is a testament, not for just because he's not a typical hard tag who just scrags and tackles and things like that. He goes in head to head and wins his own ball.
Yep. So we definitely need him to do that again this week. If you can keep Oliver accountable. If Hewitt can keep Oliver accountable, that'll go a long way to giving us a chance to win this.
Yeah, agreed.
A long way.
100%. Now, I do have another matchup that I think is very, very important to the actual success of the match, especially for a Swans win, that is. And the teams, I'm not quite sure, they're probably going to change, so it may end up being Jeddah. But for now, I've got Ronk on Jordan Lewis. Now,
I'll tell you what, if he manages to overtake Brent Brown in the next 3 rounds and pluck it, it's going to be one for the ages, isn't it?
It's going to be his second Bradbury Coleman in a row.
In a row, that's right. Only we don't have Carlton at round 23, so you can pop on a lazy 10 this year.
I know. Or you never know. He might put on a lazy 10 against Hawthorn.
No, ain't going to happen.
Oh, it'd be great if he did it against that bloody, what's his name?
Mate. The blonde-headed guy.
Yes, you know who I'm talking about.
He's still out with a broken hand, isn't he?
Oh, let him come back for this one with a broken hand so Buddy can kick 10 on him.
Gee, I'd love to see Franklin kick 10 on Hawthorn.
It would be great.
I think every Swans fan in history would love to see Franklin kick 10 on Hawthorn and just blow him out of the water.
Well, 10 would be better than his game-winning 2-7.
Yeah, it's true.
Yep.
It's very true.
Now, Josh, could you please give us your first matchup?
First matchup, seeing we're talking about Franklin, I'm going to say they're going to put Frost on Franklin. Depending on which version of Franklin shows up, if he's got his the same mobility that he had last week, Frost is probably about the only defender that could go with him. And it's something we should be able to exploit as well, quite frankly. Their defence is a little bit shaky. They don't like it when the ball comes in quick. And they certainly don't like it when their opposing team has repeat inside 50s. I would like to see Frost on Franklin, and I'd like to see a healthy Franklin, because a healthy Franklin will still destroy him.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I reckon even half-fit Franklin would still beat him.
Yep.
Maybe 3 or 4 goals, but he'd still beat him.
Provided we deliver a decent ball to him.
Yeah, that is the big if, isn't it? Big if there. So my first matchup, I've actually gone the ruck battle. So Sinclair and Gawn. Now, obviously, Sinclair hasn't got a good record against Gawn. I had to dig this up. I had to go back to 2015, I believe it was. Yeah, 2000, or maybe 2016, sorry. That was when Tippett was out injured and Naismith was out injured. So they had Sinclair and Nankervis in the ruck. Now Gawn got 58 hitouts that day. So it's incumbent on Sinclair to not be that bad again.
No, well, yes.
He got 16 hitouts.
He won't ever be that bad again, though, because it was just a different time. I think
I don't
that
know.
was after we got him from West Coast, wasn't it?
Grundy got on top comfortably last week, and that's the worry, because Grundy and Gawn are quite similar. They are very good athletes in the air and on the ground, but where Sinclair can beat them is in the scramble on the ground and also going forward. He's a very good forward.
He's a solid forward. I wished I had have watched more of the Melbourne game last week. Probably not last week. Probably wouldn't have been a good example. But from what I saw, well, actually, Quinn's birthday weekend where Grundy and Gawn went up against each other, I went to that game. Proudly sat in the D section with all my red and white on. Got some strange looks. It was great. And I still would have said that even though I think Brodie Grundy's probably better, I think Gawn got the chocolates on that day.
Yeah.
But Sinkers is definitely going to have trouble trying to quell his influence.
Yeah, agreed. Now, Josh, who was your second matchup?
They've got this little guy in their midfield. He likes to take a dive every now and then, and that's a little bloke called Clayton.
Yeah, know him well.
He's an absolute extractor of the ball. He's a fantastic inside mid. He's a contested possession beast, and we can't let him get off the chains, and we've got a bloke who can fix that. So Georgie Hewitt is going to go on to Clayton Oliver.
Yeah, it's a good matchup. I like it. The last 2 times I've played Melbourne, Oliver's actually been pretty quiet. So if we can shut down Oliver, we shut down their midfield ball-winning capacity, and we really slow their spread. Because once they get the ball, and if they can get into space, they are quick. They are very, very quick on the attack.
Extremely quick on the attack.
And they go forward in a wave. It's just like, it's frightening to watch them.
What I really like about Georgie Hewitt is that when he's on, he not only sort of soft tags his opposing player out of it, but he also wins his own balls.
Yeah,
so this weekend just gone, he had stints on Pennells and Sidebottom, who I think halfway through the third quarter, they had 1 clearance between the two of them, and George still finished with 10 for the match.
Yeah, so Hewitt was massive. He was definitely one of the best players. And Pendlebury couldn't even get into the game until towards the end of the third quarter, and he had Hewitt mining him. So it really is a testament, not for just because he's not a typical hard tag who just scrags and tackles and things like that. He goes in head to head and wins his own ball.
Yep. So we definitely need him to do that again this week. If you can keep Oliver accountable, if Hewitt can keep Oliver accountable, that'll go a long way to giving us a chance to win this.
Yeah, agreed.
A long way.
100%. Now, I do have another matchup that I think is very, very important to the actual success of the match, especially for a Swans win, that is. And the teams, I'm not quite sure, they're probably going to change, so it may end up being Jetta. But for now, I've got Ronk on Jordan Lewis. Now, of course, this could be Neville Jetta later on. But whoever he plays on, he has to beat them. And not only does he have to beat them, he has to shut them down. Because if it's Neville Jetta or Lewis Jordan, they are both good ball users coming off the back line, and they do a lot of damage if they're given time and space.
Yep. And Ronky should. I'm hoping he'll be a little bit fresh this week because he didn't play a full game last week.
No, he didn't. So he had a migraine. So the report out of that was he came off with a migraine, and they didn't put him back on.
Which means he's had limited game time. I'm hoping he's going to be fresh, because him, demoralising. I can't even speak English today. Him wreaking havoc on their backline would be something extremely useful to us, especially if he could take Jordan Lewis out of it.
Yeah, agreed. Now, who was your last matchup for this one, Josh?
AJ had a magnificent return, and he needs to have another magnificent week because I think they're going to put AJ on Tom McDonald.
Yeah, I like it. They're athletically probably about the same. Johnson's not as quick as he used to be, but McDonald's never been quick. But McDonald is a really good contested mark, and Johnson is a pretty good one-on-one defender. And he did prove last week he's still got it. So
he's still got it.
Yep.
He's still got it. He was a bit shaky. He looked like he had a couple of kicks which looked like he hadn't kicked the ball in 6 years. But I think they'll start AJ on him. And originally I was going to say maybe they might stick a Lear on Tom McDonald, but I think if they can, use Johnson to create the contest and then use the Lear over the top to, intercept mark the ball, that would be a better mix-up for us.
Agreed.
Certainly I think AJ on Tommy McDonald.
Yep, no, agreed. My last one is actually another defender. It is Rampy on Hogan. So I think Hogan's only beaten Rampy once, and that was a couple of years ago. But other than that, Rampy is arguably the best one-on-one defender in the league going around at the moment. He gives away a lot of height and a lot of weight every single week, and he still gets the job done. It's critical he stops him, but I'm confident that Rampy can do Hogan, and he's done it before, and I think he'll do it again. Yeah,
I like it. And Rams, after having a couple of quiet I still can't speak English, a couple of quiet weeks, has been back on song again. So he looks like he's got his best fired up and ready to go at the moment. Yeah,
love it. Now, we do have a couple of key points. Josh, could you please give me your first key point to victory?
Yep. First key point is, again, I probably used this one last week actually. Forward entries have to be, short, to a target. You know, we're going to have to hit Buddy Franklin on the chest all night again, especially against these guys, because like I think I said it earlier already, that they don't like it when the ball comes in fast and short. They would prefer to push you so that you bomb it in over the top, and unfortunately that's a bad habit of ours. But if our entries are short to leading targets or to men in space, I think we will go a heck of a long way to kicking a winning score. Not just because we're going to get the ball, but they don't like to defend that either.
Yeah, you're right. They got quick players, but they're kind of like a little bit like Sydney. They want to create the contest and they want teams going long so they can get players up in the air and they can really restrict the forwards run at the ball. And obviously proved against Collingwood, if we hit targets leading up, we're going to score, or at least hit the scoreboard point or put a goal or get a chance. It doesn't matter, but that's what we need to do. So I completely agree. I think it's a really good one. Now, my first one, I touched on it before with my matchup, but Sinclair, he has to make Gawn defend. I think it's the only way he can beat him and quell his influence, because Gawn will potentially go forward and kick goals, but Sinclair has to kick goals. He has to kick at least 2 goals to sort of break even for the game. And if he can kick more the merrier, but Gawn's going to dominate him in the ruck. He's going to get a lot of hit outs, so it's up to Sinclair to really hit him on the scoreboard and like really limit his influence.
Yep, yeah, I like it.
Now, Josh, your second key point?
Actually, everything we've just spoke about the last 10 minutes is all intermingled here, so I'm going to say clearances again, because we're going to get smashed in hit outs. There's no question about that. Just like we were last week, but we were able to actually mostly even up the centre and the stoppage clearances by the end of the game. We need to be able to do that from the start. Part of that's going to be Georgie Hewitt on Clayton Oliver, and part of that's going to be Sinkers on Gawn.
Yeah.
So our on-balls need to be on song. If Dan Hanbury's going to come in, he needs to have a massive night. The D's like to break fast from their stoppages and from the centre, and we can't let them do that. So we need to at least be close in clearances. I won't say we have to win it, but we have to at least be close to them.
Yeah, agree. And look, Kennedy, he looks like he's been playing injured for a while. His back definitely looked like it was giving him strife a couple of weeks ago, but he looked a bit better last week. He still doesn't look quite 100%, but if he's close-ish to 100%, I think it's going to go a long way, especially with Parker. Heaney, hopefully Heaney can bounce back, because he was quite down last week, and Hewitt as well.
He's been down for a couple of weeks now, Haynes.
He just looked a bit sick, actually, to be honest. He didn't look like he could run, really. It's a bit weird watching him. But, look, if we can get those players in form, I'm pretty sure we're going to smash them in the clearances, and certainly contested possessions. Which leads me into my final key point. The thing about the contested possessions is we got smashed in them last week, but we still managed to win.
Yep.
You know, by the skin of our teeth. But we can't lose contested by 30 plus again. And that's how ridiculous it was. But the Swans must apply forward half pressure, or the Demons, like you said, and I agree with you 100%, they're just going to run it out. Mm-hmm. Now, forward half pressure was a hallmark last year, especially after our first 6 weeks. It's kind of been a bit hit and miss this year. It looks like a bit of a game plan change or game style. But after the bye, it's been non-existent. So, time in forward half, we had a lot of it last week, but we didn't really have anywhere near as much forward 50 pressure for repeat entries, tackles inside forward 50, a lot of pressure acts inside forward 50. It was mostly like from the forward 50 up the wing. So, yeah, we're going to have to lock it in there to really put some pressure on, and I think that's our best avenue to score.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, we convert, sort of 35 to 40% of our inside 50s.
Yeah.
So, if to kick a winning score. So, yep, I totally agree with you.
Now, Josh, your first prediction of the match, if you could, please.
I got a massive call, and that is Sinkers is going to rise to the occasion. And you're laughing at me because you think this is ridiculous.
I do.
Yeah, but the big chief is going to keep Max Gawn at under 50 hitouts.
Now, I think the only way he's going to keep him under 50 is if he's injured. And that's Max Gawn, not Sinclair.
Pray to the gods.
Pray to the gods. He's got some gastro or something. I don't know. But some food poisoning at his favourite restaurant. Who knows? We kind of said the same about Grundy last week, and Grundy had an absolutely massive game. So
yeah, He did have a massive game. Yes. Yeah. No. Max Gawn for less than 50 hitouts.
Yeah, I like it, but I like where your heart's at. That's all I'm going to say on that. Now, my prediction. This is a bit out there. It's probably more out there than your hit out sort of prediction.
Yeah, no, I don't think it is.
I don't think it is.
No.
All right. Swans will be 4th by the end of the round. That's my prediction.
Did you see that? I just had a tumbleweed blow past the computer screen. I like it. You said this to me. I still can't speak English. You said this to me about 15 minutes ago, and I thought you're crazy. Then I went and looked at the
fixture.
The fixture for the weekend, and yeah, you might be onto something. This could be a thing. It could be a thing.
All right, so Hawthorn plays Geelong at the MCG. I'm penciling in Geelong for that one.
Yeah, I agree.
The Suns play Richmond. Richmond's going to win. Power play the Eagles. I think. Oh, I would have said Eagles before Gaff, but I'm kind of hoping the Eagles get the job done.
Yep.
Collingwood and Brisbane. We'll pray Brisbane gets the job done, but Collingwood's most likely going to win.
Where's that game at?
Etihad. So Brisbane are a chance. They are a chance.
Gee, wouldn't that be a win for the ages, that one, if Brisbane
That one would be great. Now, the really interesting one. The Giants are absolutely ravaged by injury, and they take on the Crows, who are starting to breathe a bit of fire again. Yeah, this is going to be a really big game for the Giants. And obviously, we play the Demons. So by the time we play the Demons, we will know where we could end up on the ladder if we win.
That's Giants spotless, isn't it?
Yeah, yep, it's spotless.
So, Sauce Jacobs, they lost. The Giants lost their ruckman again, didn't they?
Team lineups. I am just having a quick look. So Adelaide have Talia and Riley Knight out. This is the interesting one for GWS. Deledio, Dawson Simpson, Sam Taylor, and Toby Green are all out.
Yeah, Toby Green, Dawson Simpson, and Deledio. I know Deledio's been up and down a little bit, but he's sort of one of their barometers. The Crows could do that.
It literally leaves them with just Rory Lobb. That's it.
And isn't that great?
He's going to get smashed by Jacobs. Jacobs is going to do
if Jacobs shows up. If Sauce shows up, he's going to smash Lobb.
Oh, 100%. They honestly, I reckon Adelaide, especially with Rory Sloane coming back into form, injury free, Bryce Gibbs, Matt Crouch, Rory Atkins still playing well. I still think, and especially Rory Laird, I can't speak English myself, I reckon they're going to kill him. Yep. I reckon they could do him 7 goals. So Sydney are a chance. Sydney are a big chance, I think.
I like it. Sydney 4th on the ladder.
Now,
I like it.
Weekend forecast coming up. Josh, your sure thing.
My sure thing. At some stage during this game, Gawn is going to take a mark inside forward 50. That is relatively simple shot, and he is going to spray it.
Let's pray he's kicking for the win again.
Yep. He's going to spray it. It'll be an easy set shot, then he's going to miss it. That's my sure thing.
Oh, he is one of the worst set shots I've seen on goal for some time. I mean, he kind of puts he makes Travis Cloak look like a really good set shot.
Jeez.
He's missed some absolute gimmies. It's been atrocious, some of the misses he's had.
Yep.
Now,
he just keeps tripping on his beard.
He does. He needs to shave that shit off. What's that called? Movember? Can't we just call it mow every month of the year?
He looks like a Viking. If anyone's seen the show Vikings, he looks like an extra for that.
He does. He's a good character, though. He's a great character. We'd never wish him any harm. He's a great person. But shave that shit. Now, I do have a most at stake. And this one comes from the heart because I do love Hanbury. I know there's a lot of Swans fans that love Hanbury, even though they love to pay him a bit of shit. And they don't really like where he's at the moment. They'd be happy to see the back of him. But if he comes in and he plays and he gets injured again, that's it.
Yep.
Checking out for the season.
I know he hasn't been playing well this year, but we play better when he's there, though.
We do, yeah.
And we've got such a shortage of leadership on the field at the moment. Even though we got Macca back and we look a little bit better, we still need him. And I still think a half Hanbury's as good as a full Robinson. So,
or even a full Kieran Jack. So
we've only had a half Jack.
Yeah. Well, there's no, like, you look at it, you can't say that there isn't a coincidence between the Swans winning 6 in a row or 7 or whatever it was, with Hanbury and Jack in the team. Then all of a sudden, with those players out, they can't win a game. They can't even win in the midfield.
Yeah, I agree. And I noticed after Jack having a few days off, his inside 50 entries looked pretty good last week. He had a couple of good moments.
Yeah.
They weren't as good as Jordan Dawson. So Jordan Dawson is going to be a gun, in my opinion.
Yes.
But Hannah's back.
Yep.
Hannah's back. Yep. I agree. I like it.
Now, your doomsday, Josh, could you please run that off?
I'm going to put up what I said last week, which is basically any injury to Heaney or Parker would be disastrous for us structurally, but I'm going to add Callum Sinclair to that as well.
No, that's true. I would have thought doomsday scenario would be Carlton winning a game, but, I'm all heart.
Well, who are they playing?
Mate, they could play under 12s at the moment and they'd still lose.
It's just shocking.
They're
absolutely shocking, aren't they?
They're actually kind of within a chance. They're playing Fremantle, but they're playing them over there. So... no. Not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
No. Well, I love it. But Josh, as always, thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate it. Love you having you on.
No worries. Thanks for the invite again.
No worries. And as always, guys, we are on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, with the tag The Swans Blog. You can always get in contact with us during the week with the hashtags Swanscast and Swanscast Extra. We're going to be back on Sunday evening after the match. I will be there, probably tweeting every now and again. So hopefully probably late podcast on Sunday, maybe early Monday morning. So until next time, go Swans.
Up Swannies.